Happy Star Wars Day, fellow Decepticons. SoundBlaster1987 here with my May 2022 vlog. This time to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Hayden Christensen's role from Attack of the Clones. What better way to celebrate Star Wars Day this year than to chronicle the life of Anakin Skywalker, aka the Chosen One and Darth Vader, from conception to his legacy. So, let's start things off at the very beginning, shall we? It was believed, due to the fact that Shmi Skywalker in The Phantom Menace said that there was no father, it was believed initially that Anakin was conceived by the midichlorians themselves, those little microorganisms in the cells of every living being that help them become force sensitive and whatnot. However, I don't think that's the case. I believe that Anakin Skywalker was part of a Sith grand plan from before he was even born, because he was conceived by Sith alchemy by Darth Sidious and Darth Plagueis prior to the start of the, whole situation with Darth Sidious taking on Darth Maul and whatnot. Because of course, as we all know, the Sith have the ability to use alchemy to manipulate life itself. But regardless, Anakin was born in 41 BBY, the same year as Grogu from The Mandalorian, to Shmi Skywalker, a slave on Tatooine to Graballa the Hutt. Actually no, it was Gardalla the Hutt, wasn't it? Because Graballa was the LEGO exclusive cousin of Jabba from the Freemaker Adventure series. I'll do a vlog on them eventually. But back to Anakin for the time being. Gardalla the Hutt lost the Skywalker family in a game of Sabacc to Watto the Toydarian prior to the events of the Phantom Menace movie, which takes place 9 years later when Anakin was just 9 years old. So, as we all know, Anakin Skywalker was freed from slavery when Qui-Gon Jinn used the Force to manipulate a chance cube in a wager with Watto over the Boonta Eve Classic pod race, at which point Anakin was taken to Coruscant to begin his Jedi training once Obi-Wan Kenobi had finished the night trials. However, Qui-Gon's death at the hands of Darth Maul led Obi-Wan Kenobi to inherit the responsibility of training Anakin from his master as his dying wish. Despite the fears and doubts of the Jedi Council, especially Masters Windu and Yoda. But moving swiftly on, 10 years later, of course, we have Attack of the Clones, when Hayden Christensen first played Anakin Skywalker. At this point, Anakin is an emotional 19-year-old who is tormented with Force visions of his mother's death at the hands of the Tusken Raiders on Tatooine. And this is where Anakin starts to experience his first fall to the dark side, when he slaughters the Tusken Raider camp after his mother's death. Of course, Anakin's reckless and brash behaviour would continue on through the Clone Wars series after having lost his right arm to Count Dooku on Geonosis already. I'll go into more detail about Anakin's adventures in the Clone Wars in another vlog, but suffice to say that he never listens to Obi-Wan's advice, ever, and he often puts others, especially clones, and his Padawan Ahsoka Tano in danger as a result of his recklessness. He also had more tendencies to fall to the dark side in the Clone Wars, like using the Force choke technique as an interrogation tactic with Poggle the Lesser, and executing several separatist leaders with his lightsaber like Admiral Trench. Then, 3 years after the Clone Wars, Revenge of the Sith, Anakin decapitated Dooku with his own lightsaber to rescue Palpatine, and then Palpatine manipulated Anakin into turning against the Jedi Council in order to save Padme's pregnancy after his Force visions of Padme dying in childbirth. This is around the time when Order 66 dropped and Anakin became Darth Vader. In name only at this point, because he wasn't the full cyborg yet, he was still just the right arm and the lightsaber of Darth Vader so far. This is the point where Anakin started to use the term Vader's Fist instead of the 501st Legion for his clone trooper detachment, when he stormed the Jedi Temple to slaughter all the younglings. It wasn't until the, fateful battle with Obi-Wan and Mustafar that he ended up getting the injuries that led to his full cybernetic rebirth as the Darth Vader we all know and fear from the original trilogy. Now, I can't mention the original trilogy without going into detail about Vader's scenes in Rogue One first, because of course, in addition to having his castle on Mustafar, Vader also had a very violent hallway scene at the end of Rogue One, where he was slaughtering rebel troopers left and right to get the Death Star plans back from them. Why he didn't just use force pull to grab the disc back from the rebels from across the room without having to kill anyone is beyond me. I suppose it made better cinema for him to just slash his way down the corridor. Oh well. Then, following directly on from Rogue One was, of course, the original Star Wars movie, A New Hope, from 1977. No one knew about Anakin Skywalker being Vader's real name at this point, apart from Vader himself and Palpatine, of course. So, Vader didn't even realise that he was taking his own daughter hostage, because at that point it wasn't written that Vader was Leia's father until Return of the Jedi. After it was revealed that Luke was not the only Skywalker left. So, in addition to forcing his own daughter to watch her adopted home planet of Alderaan be destroyed from a bridge of a Death Star, Vader also ended up force-choking several Imperial officers in the original trilogy. And of course, Grand Moff Tarkin was the only one that could stop him. Not sure why, because Vader could easily have choked Tarkin and taken his job as well, but evidently there are still some non-force sensitives that Vader had the respect to not do that with. Of course, it wasn't until Empire Strikes Back that Vader actually ended up in a lightsaber duel with anyone in the original trilogy, because of course he did try to shoot down Luke Skywalker's X-Wing in the trench run, but then he was shot down by the Millennium Falcon and sent spinning into space. This is where the Marvel Darth Vader comics come into play, as a time interval between episodes 4 and 5 of the movies. Again, I'll make another vlog down the line about the Marvel Darth Vader comics, because I haven't read them all yet and need to do more research. Link in the description below to that vlog when it comes out. So, Empire Strikes Back. This is where Vader starts being even more violent than ever, invading the rebel base on Hoth, choking out Admiral Ozzel when he brought the fleet out of hyperspace too close to the planet, and cutting off his own son's right hand, among other things. And then, a few years later in Return of the Jedi, we end up seeing Vader redeem himself for his previous past actions as the Emperor's sidekick, when he saves Luke Skywalker from the Emperor's Force Lightning attack. And then, of course, having thrown himself in front of the Force Lightning to save Luke, all of his cybernetic enhancements overloaded and his life support system was fried, meaning that his only hope now was to have Luke take his helmet off so that he could look at his son with Anakin Skywalker's eyes, just one last time before his death. Then, after Vader's body was consumed by the traditional Jedi funeral pyre on the planet Endor, Anakin Skywalker's Force Ghost appeared alongside Obi-Wan and Yoda to celebrate. Although Anakin Skywalker's life ended at this point, his legacy lives on, because his long-lost daughter Leia then had a son with Han Solo called Ben, in reference to Obi-Wan Kenobi's hermit name, Ben Kenobi. Of course, Ben would later grow on to become Kylo Ren of the First Order, Vader's grandson, carrying on where the Empire left off with Starkiller Base. Again, I'll make another vlog about Kylo Ren's journey later on. So, Anakin Skywalker has had a very long and complex life, basically overall, and his legacy spans nearly a century of Sith plans and whatnot, between the 30-year story gap for the Sequel Trilogy and when he was conceived by Sith alchemy prior to the prequels. That concludes my review of Anakin Skywalker's life. I have been SoundBlaster1987. Join me next time for my review of Transformers Animated Deluxe Lockdown. My next vlog, however, will be about the history of the Sixth Ranger concept in the Power Rangers and Super Sentai franchise. Till then, till all are one, and may the Force be with you, always.